get in straight continuation of what we just talked about, or at least some of the issues, this issue about bringing normal people or everyday life on stage, that was really a part of what you actually did. I know this is Erik and Daniel are not normal people, they're also performance artists or performer or working in the fields of art, and most of you are, but kind of normal person to get them on stage. And that was very interesting. Thanks a lot. And that at least could be one thing that we could talk about, continuation of the last discussion we had. But you also added something on, of course, about how to create art, etc. I'm not sure some of you want to talk more about that, we'll do that. But for me, the striking point of your performance is its entertainment value. That you're really adding something on about humor in it, which isn't that common when you see, we have seen a lot of performance art from the Nordic countries in these last 4 Nordic Samtalekøkken. And humor isn't the most present thing. But in your case, it is very present. At least if you go to Danish theater, it's the opposite. You cannot make a thing that doesn't have humor often it is bad humor. You're bound to, it should be entertainment all the time, it should entertain. And what you're doing, and in the visual arts it's opposite. It's as if you're not allowed to entertain, but you do that in a very fine way. So, thank you.
Then you'll do this.
With the entertainment part, or whether it was entertaining or not, from one part I would say yes, it was entertaining, but from the other part I think it was really evil in a way. I mean, I think, I don't know if because because I participated, as standing as a statue or whatever, or if I had this thought otherwise too, but the thoughts that were running in my head was about our authority and responsibility, and I could not help myself associating to like these different psychological, experiments. Maybe if you heard about the Stanford prison test or the Milgram test or stuff, like how far would you go for like about hurting yourself and letting others get hurt if an authority tells you to do it. I mean, like, putting people in stupid position for like long minutes while he's just like eating and not even eating, because then he just takes his thing out of his mouth, and that's why I took his thing, like his biscuit, out, because I felt like that I had to do something or interrupt this whole kind of process of authority and like kind of torture, or this is like, I mean, of course it's an exaggeration, but I mean that these were the pictures in my head, and that was the dilemma all the time in myself, like whether I could interact or let art be as it is, or this again the question of responsibility and authority. Yeah.
But when I heard about the project, I thought actually you would be modeling the cake math and looking at people. But instead, it was like you were not even looking at them when we were walking around them. It was like your physical movement around them was enough to somehow take them in, and then magically you put them into the cake math that you got rid of. You weren't even forming it, you just got rid of it. And it reminded me of this South Park chapter that I was watching the other day of people shitting with their mouths. And it was kind of really opposed to what I expected.
Actually, I think.
I would like to know what is your state of mind when you were chewing and other people were posing for you.
Yeah. Well, this is a kind of continuation of how I've been working, and I've done pieces similar to this before, but never with my mouth before actually anything. I usually have worked with maybe clay or plaster or wood, and I have. Sometimes I've been working with using people. Maybe I've been working with opera singers, for example, using them, and then they are present. But like you talked about, there's no eye contact, which is actually important to me. That there's no. It's not about actually attempting to sculpt something. It's also about it's about attempting to sculpt something, but not something specific. It's more. It's not a certain person. It's more of a certain atmosphere, or capturing something that's not really about a certain appearance or anything like that. It's about a certain atmosphere, or everything, smell, hearing, sensing, and how we feel and everything like that. I feel that it goes into the sculpture, and I actually feel like I was molding that sculpture with my mouth instead of using my hands. I was using my mouth. So
maybe we should wait, letting you talk.
Okay.
Because I would at least talk. I would like. And I just would like to before I know what you think you were doing, I would try to see again what I saw was happening, and because we had seen the other piece before, it of course has a big it means a lot to what you're doing. It became obvious that whereas the performance before was very little aware of its own being part of art history, but it was very aware of the story it was telling, and the authenticity and all these things, whereas the thing we saw there was almost the opposite. It was so conscious about art history, and one thing too. I don't think there was any use of ethnic authenticity here, but maybe because there was no use of authenticity at all. It wasn't a question if it was you or if it was someone else or if it was somebody else using you or somebody telling somebody else to tell you to do this. But already from the beginning, it was it used the performance art from the, when is this beginning? When you were standing and I don't know if it, I didn't know if there was something happening already or we were just waiting for the last people to sit. The way you were standing there, I didn't know. And then when some things start to happen, nothing happened. And I was, when there was somebody put on the plinth, and so I waited for the thing to happen. When is it going to happen? But it hadn't happened. Then the gloves were put on, so something is going to happen, but it hasn't happened. Eating this because after eating, or well, something is going to happen. And it happened in the moment where this was taken out. And there, all art history were changed. What happened here in this performance came together in this thing because first of all, again, eating on stage is a very in theater you won't have there will be a lot of theater you will go and see where people will pretend to eat but not eat. But in performance art, it's very often has to do with you do what you do. You don't pretend to do what you do. You do it. I'm here, and I'm me, and I'm doing this. And then in performance art, eating, shitting, bleeding, body art. The importance of the body function is very important. And then again, this of using other people. But let's stay a little with that because in that moment we also had the production of art. And the reason why we're talking about South Park is, of course, also connected to Piero Manzoni, the Italian artist, and his producing the shit on cans, because this also here you suddenly had a product. Before, what we saw before was unsellable, but this already could be numbered and dated, and then it could be sold, or at least it could be shown. This place has its not only as a church, but as a place where where Fluxus, the Danish Fluxus history is. So it could be part of a Fluxus exhibition, because in performance art you have always had the problem about what is left when everything else is gone. You will never go to, very seldom you will go to see what is left over of a performance that was on the Royal Theatre 5 years ago. But you will go to see the leftovers from a performance by Marina Abramovic, for instance.
Can I just very quickly jump in also with the Manzoni reference?
Yes.
I mean, the other piece it made me think of is there's the Manzoni, I think it's called Base Magica, where you stand on a plinth and you become a piece of art.
Yes.
Which is, I mean, Manzoni also, I think, did several pieces where he again turns the normal or turns people into pieces of art. He signs people.
Yeah.
And again, here you have the people that are being displayed. They are the piece of art, but then also there's this other piece of art being made. So which is more important, the ephemerality of the normal person standing there who is being displayed, or as you say, this remainder, the actual physical thing, the artistic object, which is just a ball of chewed up, spat out, digested biscuit. So it's the more disgusting thing, but it is also the more, as it were, obviously artistic, physical thing.
It will last for if not a century, then.
Yes, so which is the ephemerality can be quite beautiful. But I think particularly, I must say, the last sculpture somehow was particularly aesthetic. But then it is reduced to this corporal reality.
But I'll just say,
that I found that it was very good, the combination of this humorous reference to labor in art, time spent, time-based works, chewing time equals what you make, like the dough is made as the seconds go while you're looking at the piece, and at the same time that it's kind of a joke on how minimal you're being with, you take as much cookie as you can in your mouth, and you use up one package of the digestive cookie, and then when it's, so it's as many models as the package sort of holds. So I found this was like very good. It's like, in a sense, you have this like, in a sense the cookie is telling you what is going to happen in somehow. You're like, some decisions are left to the cookie or to the or to the size of cavity of your mouth, or so I was just thinking that was really interesting also in this reference to like art history, like beyond the body art thing, which is
there is only real time, there's no fiction time. There is
and there's physical things making the object.
But I mean, again, you're talking maybe more about the sculptural, these kind of, or the physical, the physical material, the sculpture material.
It's time-based as well. I mean, it's defined by the size of the cookie package maybe, and also by how many minutes he's chewing or who is chewing. So it's these external things that are not spontaneous decisions, which I find really interesting in terms of like referencing art history beyond the still sculpture or whatever.
I would like to add something, or when you say this, it was a nice combination with this set of time, or how you could say, with the cookies and things like that, and the amount of people. That was the time limit, but then in the same time it was a lot of lines that was unfinished. You didn't know how it would end, and it could be a continuation with the sculptures, for example. You could build something with it, or something else could happen. So it was a nice combination with something you didn't understand, or you didn't get the whole picture, and you had this limitations that was so clear. You knew exactly how number 2, number 2, number 3. So it was this 2 lines cracking there, and in this crack where these 2 lines met, for me it became very interesting and funny as well.
I think I disagree that the artist's ethnicity was not like a part of the piece. For me, I think this, I couldn't help seeing it, also comparing it to the piece we saw before, where I saw very clearly this Madonna with the child. Here I saw a very big reference to the artist and the model, and for me it was very clear. Okay, this is it's a male artist. And he's white, and it also kind of fitted the classical image of the artist and the model. The artist is a man, and the model is a woman, and of course the artist is white. We can't imagine almost anything else. So I think I disagree about this. It didn't play so explicitly on the ethnicity, but I think you used that you are a man and you are white and you even have this kind of artist hair. So I think you used your own the body you're born with in a way as a part of the play.
The assumption of sort of the power or the assumption of power relationships, which I think I presume you're critiquing to some degree, but critiquing by fulfilling that assumption. So
I think you're playing with it in a way, and then
coming back.
So for me, is I'm really surprised. I think we now live in this kind of the global world, but I'm from Spain, so for me this performance is really site-specific. For me, I'm really surprised when, for example, you eat this kind of the cookie, but it's the second when you eat, for example, in my country, it's really connection with the Catholic religion. So it's more this that you eat the body of the Jesus. And all this kind of the critical or political is, for me, it's really, I think it's really fresh and really simple. But when you put some people in different positions, it's not only this referent position for philosophical way, it's other, in the other hand, it's more critical or more political about, and it's possible you imagine some piece that is in the middle of the center, you know? So maybe Jesus or other kind of the sculptor or position in the religion is what it is. So
then it's also very interesting. What is he doing to Jesus? Because normally you receive Jesus, a smaller part of Jesus. This was really big Jesus, big lump. And then instead of eating it, you were transforming Jesus. So what has Jesus become now in our society?
Yeah, it's not the reference, you know. That you are in this place, it's really site-specific for me, this performance. But when the people normally eat, it's only eat before when you eat Jesus, you know. So it's not depends what is more big, what is more small, but this connection is the same kind of the geometry, you know, it's circular. So it's more big, but it's the same, you know. And you eat this, and maybe you vomit this. It's really, for me, critical, you know, and political. Okay, you don't like more this kind of you work in other way. For me, it's congratulations. I like your job, and all time you surprise me, or when you make other new projects. So I'm really good for you make this performance now.
I was kind of expecting something more after that. That is for me, I think is like a representation of process of maybe you're sculpting, sketching, a drawing, and I kind of like ticking or counting your minutes, like 1 minute, 2 minutes, like what we are trained in the art school, or photographing, or sculpting, or sketching. So I was kind of expecting something in the end. What after? What then? So it didn't come. So you show the time, the process of how you were chewing, and for me also very important that I need to know what was your presence of your mind when you were chewing, because like we were talking about, you didn't build the eye contact with the model, and you were eating and chewing, and your eyes, your gaze, for me, I think I don't see that you are thinking in your eyes. I felt your eye was empty when I tried to search something, or maybe you are thinking, maybe you have something, or maybe you have something think about the position. If you're talking about connecting to art history, you probably are like, okay, what about this position? What does it mean of this gesture and all that? I cannot search this in your eyes, which is why I'm asking you, your presence of mind. Where were you when this process taking place? Because your body is present, the modern is present, but is your mind also present?
Well, I think
it depends on
something.
Well, I think it's a very meditative state. So I think you can answer both yes and no. I mean, present, but also not present at all. You know, so completely there, but not there, also not at all.
Yeah, I think this present can lead to the end of how how you were, like, I mean, like maybe some people are expecting or some people may not expecting something come after of all this. So the last person, you go out and you go, you know, so that's why that this present may be important for the after process.
I think that's interesting also. I mean, but because there's obviously a huge disconnection between the sculptor with his mouth and the model. You know, the model is just there, and that's just one part of it. But I felt that there was like no connection in between that. It was just between the space. It was physically how much time or how much space would it take for you to walk around that had nothing to do with the way that the human sculpture was sculpted in the beginning of each session. And I'm interested also, like what was like, of course it's like meditative, you know, but it's like, of course, like interesting what's going on in your mind, you know, and yeah, like I mean, it's obviously questioning the idea of this model, and the model can be anything really. It's not just a model, it's just the information that gets through your senses, and you take out all senses. They are not present at this time. So
can I comment on this particular thing? Or? I don't know if it's on this.
You had also your hand up.
Yeah, I was having a comment, but you can stop.
Try to do it short. But I mean, for me, it was like I felt those gear shifts that you had between the introduction of the model and the setting up and so on, and when you then came to create. And then it was obvious that you were stepping into some kind of ignored or spaced out, or like you were pulled out, like the plug was like pulled out of you, and you were like just eating the biscuit, and then it came out. And I felt that process, like we have a body figured and we have a body chewing, and those two like talking together with no disruption at all. They're just talking like bodies. There's no minds. The model is like focused on standing still, and the other body is focusing on chewing, and then it comes out. It almost like body telepathy, you know, like two bodies talking with each other, and then it comes out of that mouth, you know, like a model or sculpture. Yeah, but that was just my reading of it, like two unplugged bodies, like, and then.
I have two comments and a question to you afterwards. We also always have to ask, is it possible to ask? No, but for me, I always liked performances that kind of are open for risk, and that is my question also. That because I liked it a lot until I had this question in my mind, because it felt like these people that you were working with suddenly went into you and took the cookies, and it was like kind of agreement or something like that. And I was like, shit, man, is it prepared? Who are those that you are working with? And because I think that when you are working together with the audience, you take a risk of bringing them up or doing something with them. So that is the question. Have you prepared something to them? Was this your friends? Because I felt like the first three people talking about this was the people participating, right?
Yeah, that's beautiful.
It's always there, huh? And I also think it's very interesting. I like the way you started it, like you said, that you didn't really know when it was starting, which I like. I like that way of working. That it's something that you can turn around the corner outside in the public space and suddenly it's there, and you don't really know what is this. And I like that kind of how you started it out. And I also, talking to this, what you were saying about the presence, I felt, for me, there was no doubt about that you were thinking of them. You don't need to look at them when you were kind of scouting and doing your stuff. But still, my question is, was this prepared? Who was these people coming there? Did you talk with them before or something like that?
No, actually, I had my assistant choose people from the crowd when they were coming in.
Yeah.
And I recognized some people here and some people were chosen.
There were maybe two people that he knows like a little bit, but not as friends. So
but you
most
kind
people
of
are completely...
No, we didn't prepare it.
But you talk to them, can you do this and you have to do this and that?
No, I just asked them if they could assist us. That was a little bit.
But then you're even more an artist because you have an assistant, an true artist, male, white artist, and of course has assistants.
Anyway, can I just a fast comment on that, because I feel that no, but I think that it gives me the wrong impression that they are sitting there and that's the people that you're taking. I think you should work with more risk and go out with people that are sitting all over.
Because?
Because I think that it's also a comment that I feel that when we are talking about performance art, Henrik is referencing to theater. You are doing the same. Why don't we reference to fine art or human history? Why theater?
I'm referring to fine art.
Yeah, but I hear that when we would talk about it, it's like in theater, it's like a radio play, it's like this and that. It's a small thing, but it's a kind of direction for me when you are referencing it to theater.
Talk about art history.
I go back to the trend. If you go back to the trend which talked about in the beginning, and Matthias said it was kind of the same in visual art, that the people being put on stage are not wide part of our society. It's more written, more the kind of people put on stage. What you did was putting normal people on stage. But what you saw was also what happened, why normal people aren't put on stage, because they make a revolt against it. They cannot have it. They don't want to be exploited the way they did. They stole your cookies. In that way, you had a picture of what happens when you don't put victims on stage.
What stage?
He made a small stage.
That's a podium.
Yeah, podium, whatever. Whole word was a stage. That was a stage. When you're using people like that, then you can see that something else happens, and that is very interesting. When you're using people on the same level, and what's often happened in theater or fine arts is that people are putting people using people, and the term using Mongols or whatever to underline some kind of art or authenticity. But in this case, you were using people on your same level, and they did a revolt against you.
And that was where the performance failed, because instead of taking it in, the male white man with his assistant proved to be very poor, very elusive, because he and sadly the revolters hadn't eaten up the shit, because he had the possibility to do something else, and the break was there, and he got it back, and he went on as if nothing had happened, but something had happened.
Exactly. And
that turned this the dictator into a former dictator. Nobody believed him any longer. You know, he had no authority.
On this whole discussion? Well, actually, the point of the dictator, I think it actually was the reverse, because even though people, make revolution or whatever, he still continued doing what he has been doing. It doesn't matter. I mean, you cannot overrule him. That was kind of my interpretation of it. And we didn't, agreed on anything, and I stole the cookie and stuff, and it was, as I explained, because I had this dilemma about, letting authority doing what he does or interrupting it, and I also had this dilemma, whether we have the right to, interact with a piece of art, or when it's good, or when it's actually possible, or when you are actually putting too much attention on you without understanding the art as it is. But I chose to, go on with the interpretation of power, and do we actually have the, force, or have the, if we dare to oppose power, and that's why I chose to do that, to take the courage and actually oppose the authority in this way. And what else I was about to? Oh yeah, about timing. I think time was an important part of the whole thing, and repetition. And actually, by not having any, by doing the same thing, I think I really like it in art, for example, or wherever we call it, because I think it creates a lot of tension, because you're expecting something to happen and it's not happening. It just keeps on, going on and on and on. And that's, I think, interesting how we interpret it, because I interpret it as, as tension and as kind of misusing people and misusing people's, time and limits, and, the models, time and physical limits and things. But for him, as I've heard your interpretation, it was more like a meditative thing, like using time, using break or whatever you call it, in order to kind of intuitively get more into the people around you. So for you it was more, as you told, or like as I understood what you said, it was more like, having time to create something more deep or profound or intuitive, while for other people, both for the audience who expected something to happen, or for me as feeling like being, kind of objected or whatever, for me it was like a tension, it was something kind of negative, while for you it was something really more like calm and more like letting into it, as I understood. So I think it's interesting how we interpret time, and actually if it's really elongated.
The risk is in time, I think, here. I mean, the performance gets risky, or the tension gets provocative by repeating itself. And I guess the models were acting different in the end than in the very beginning, because they could see this would just repeat as it did the last time. And when he walks by next time, I'll grab the fucking biscuits. So if the repetition gets kind of risky, and it gets you also kind of tense, I guess.
But I think that makes it really strong as well,
Yeah, exactly.
Because people were still going on stage, they were still going on that plinth, even though they knew that this is dangerous. I'm putting myself into risk. They were doing it,
was
and
very
that's
dangerous.
It was kind of,
No, that was not what I meant.
Bit,
It was like the performance itself got risky by being repetitive.
Then you can plan.
Yeah, exactly. And then you know what he does the next time and so on. So it's not like, I don't think that he acted in any way that authoritative. He was like very friendly, and he was not acting irresponsible in any way. It's like, I think the time is the provocative thing here, actually.
That sounds a little bit more pleasurable than risky. What can I do next? Okay, so it's time for my light to shine. I'm gonna grab the biscuit. Then it's you who have the power. It's like, okay, I'm gonna try to be a little bit funny here.
No, but
and then you do something, it's like, or just stepping out of your chair, going somewhere else, and like then you're in the spotlight somehow. It doesn't seem risky just to put the spotlight on you, like apart from the performance. Or
it is very risky to do that.
Yeah, but it's fun. No. It's like
I have to say,
the thing that really worried me is when you stole the biscuits. I mean, and it's kind of very fun, and it's interesting when people make, you know, he's very clearly showing the structure of what he's doing, you know, to the audience and to the people participating. So this is what kind of creates a risk. The thing that really was scaring me when we stole the biscuits is because everyone started eating them, and would there be enough biscuits left to finish the last sculpture? That was worrying.
But what I actually was hoping that people were eating it, so like this whole kind of dictatorship will stop. But I thought we did it, but we did not, and that's why I worried me that, you know, this kind of dictatorship will keep on because we could not stop it. Like, I understand that it could look like as, and that was my whole dilemma, like, for a lot of rounds, like, oh, should I take it, should I not? Like, they will think I, will be the star of the night or whatever, but it was not that, it was really about, like, I think maybe if I hadn't tagged it, it would have been going again and again and again, and I just had, again, these psychological experiments in my mind that that's what we are doing in life, right? Like, letting, these power structures that are happening to maintain stable. We maintain the status quo, and we maintain people getting, suppressed or oppressed, and, what can we do about it? And we don't do anything. And then I thought that in this little performance, which for me represented this whole kind of, power structure and oppression of others, that here I have the possibility to do something about it. And, it was kind of, for me, it was like a psychological kind of process in my mind. It was not that much about, like, being on the spot. But I understand that it could have been seen as if it was.
But that's a part of the psychological problem.
Yeah,
exactly. That you also think about that part. So you also have the pressure from the audience.
Yeah, exactly.
How will they perceive whatever you do on stage? So you are totally locked in your position. Whatever you do, you will have to think about what they will think about you in that context.
Yeah.
So that's part of the evil genius of that mechanism.
What stage? What stage?
The stage that we are part of.
Yeah, but we are looking at the podium, but you are sitting behind.
Yeah, but we're still a part of the stage.
Exactly, and that is not the stage, because when you perform on the same level as the audience or the witness, there is not a stage.
Wouldn't you say that we were what? Wouldn't you say that we were a part of the stage?
That's what I'm saying, but I'm not calling it a stage. That's the difference.
What would you call
For
it?
me, we are. What?
I don't think that it is. I think it's your opinion, but it's.
Yeah, of course, it's my opinion that because I'm not connecting performance art with theatre, and in theatre you're talking about the stage.
Yeah, but
because I'm looking at what you were doing, I'm also looking what people are looking at and how they are reacting. Not only the people who is moving. I'm also looking when you hear sound, I see something there. It's the whole thing that is happening, the whole action. What we are doing here, we're talking about the room, the church, the child, and the mother. For me, that's the whole thing. It's not only what I'm directed to look at.
There's still a wall built.
So it's for me, I want you, and I will force you. I will lock the door here to the church, and not until you stop saying stage, we let you out.
I would say stage. You said earlier, you mentioned an important word that is about risk, taking risk on stage or in the room or whatever. The key word for me, what you're saying, is about risk taking. That is, for me, what theatre doesn't. That is kind of prepared. What you do. What for me is the difference between theatre and performance art is the risk taking. That you go on and you do something that can be prepared, but that you're willing to take a risk and do something completely different.
Yeah, of course, and there is you cannot separate these two things, and that's of course the reason why you can have stagings in arts, in the arts, and because there is no brilliant wall between the two things. They are two things,
Also, it's a staging to cluster 7 chairs in front of all the other chairs. And it's also a staging not to involve all the other people. And also points.
It's a sense of direction.
Yeah, direction.
Direction.
I totally agree. It would have been totally interesting if he had taken audiences up to the podium. That would have changed it, because then everyone would have been at risk of going to the podium, and they would suddenly have seen themselves as, what would I do if I was chosen? But it wasn't part of it.
Question of who you identify with when you look at it. I mean, if you identify with this audience, giving